Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade.
Welcome to the Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to the Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here LaWanda Harris, and today we're going to be speaking about her book 38 Silencer, Unfired, Guns Still Kill. And she's here to tell her story. She is an author and host, a speaker, an award-winning MC, a voice-over artist, and an events marketing professional. Hi, LaWanda.
Hello, Jade. How are you today?
I am great. I'm going to speak to you, so I'm doing good. LaWanda, I am ready to speak about this book. I was telling you before we started that it is a raw book.
Yes.
It is unfiltered. I'm sure there's stuff you didn't say, but to our reader, it can be unfiltered because there's so many things. And the disclaimer out there is going to be that, hey, this book can be triggering. I don't really want to say a lot
Right.
because I want her to. I want her to give her story
Right.
about
You don't want to say a lot right now. You want.
I want you to do it. I don't want to say that. I want you to give that.
Sure.
I want you, first of all, LaWanda, to tell us why you want to tell your story. Why is it important for you to tell your story?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for inviting me on the show today, Jade. And I am thrilled with the title of your podcast, with it being Unfiltered. I think that our stories need to be told in a way that is unfiltered. A lot of the things that we are experiencing today, the challenges that we are having today, we're having them because we have not told the truth about the things that we have gone through, about the things that have formed us, about the things that has created us and molded us into the person that we are today. So for me, it was important for me to tell my story because we hid it. And it was a lot of people that joined in on this facade of hiding a very dark, deep secret that crafted me. And by doing so, I was put in a situation where there was no accountability for the individuals that was involved. And that left the door open for the enemy to come right back in, little foxes that destroy the vine. And so by not requiring accountability, we left the door open for the enemy to come back in. And this is my way of shutting that door so that will it ever be able to haunt me like this again.
That's right. Healing starts from telling our story.
Percent.
I want us to jump into the first chapter, trigger warning.
Sure.
Give us a little bit about that.
I wanted to be clear when I wrote this book and starting it with the chapter trigger warning, because I understand coming into this story that my story is not an anomaly. I know that there are countless women and men my age that has dealt with childhood trauma.
Yes.
And I wanted to prepare my readers to know exactly what they are going to be getting themselves into, because I don't want what happened to me to happen to anyone else and not see a trigger coming. You know, the reason why this whole book exists is because I was triggered. And being a responsible individual, being a responsible human being, I wanted to make that the first chapter so that those who choose to indulge with the full knowledge that, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about. Are you healed? Are you whole? Are you able? Do you have the capacity to be able to deal with this story? Because it is going to tell the truth and shame the devil.
It is. It sure did. It sure did. All right. So reading the book. Okay. So I didn't know what to expect. The trigger warning was good, right? Because it gave me a little rundown. My problem is starting off the book and then seeing who almost pulled the trigger. I was like, no, you got to be kidding me.
Chapter one, I came out swinging, didn't I?
I said to myself, she woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning when she wrote this part, because what? This is how the week is going to start? And that alone brought up triggers for me. And I was saying, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I want you to talk to us a little bit about early childhood, because, and that was specific because you have seen a lot in your childhood. You have experienced so much. And in your childhood also is when grooming started. So I want you to tell us a little bit about your childhood and the expectation, because there's a flip to your childhood. I think when people see, you're dressed well, you're happy or whatever, they don't know that there are certain things that are happening behind closed doors that people would generally don't know about. And because a facade is put up, you go along with the facade and everybody is deceived, but you're the only one that is experiencing what you're experiencing behind closed doors. So give us a little bit about that, please.
Alrighty, so that's a loaded question. First of all, listeners, let me help you with this. We kind of danced around the topic a little bit about what 38 silencer unfired guns still kill is all about. And the reason why we put the trigger warning in there as the first chapter is to let you know that this book deals with the sexual abuse that I experienced as a little girl. And the sexual abuse that I experienced as a little girl was brought on by an individual who was very closely related to our family, not by familial blood, but by association. And he became a permanent fixture within my family through another set of circumstances. And so my story begins at the age of 9 years old, when the individual, and keep in mind, I never reveal in podcast or openly who the key players of the book is.
Right.
However, Jade has read the book and she knows that in chapter 1, I actually do reveal the identity of those individuals and who they are to me. Because I did not want my readers to go through the whole book trying to figure out, well, who the heck is she talking about? I felt like I needed to go ahead and get that out of the way up front so that while you're reading the book, you have a full understanding of the level of devastation that was brought into my life because I was a kid.
Yes.
Can we just pause there?
Yes.
And accept the fact that I was a kid. I was 9 years old when the grooming process started for me. And I can tell you that I believe that it was always the sole intention of that individual's posture for being a part of our lives. I believe that I was staked out and scoped out and sized up from the very, very beginning. And by the time the grooming process began for me, the predator of my story knew everything they needed to know about me. They had clocked my movements. They had checked my insecurities. They had made notations of what made me happy and what made me sad and what made me cry and how I felt about certain situations and how I felt about certain circumstances, and the fact that I felt like I was, not as loved and not as appreciated, and that I needed love and I needed appreciation. They knew me. They knew me to my core. Now, keep in mind, we are dealing with a grown man that is clocking the behaviors of a child that has no idea what is about to happen to her. So my grooming process, and I am very careful about this. I have people in my life that has required me to take away that personalization, because it is no longer my trauma. It's no longer, that person is no longer my predator. That person is a predator, but they no longer belong to me. That trauma is trauma, but baby, I got to cast that thing off because it's weight. And that weight had to be cast off if I was ever going to heal from the bondage that it brought into my life. But when I look back and I reread my own book and I read it from the lens of that grooming process, I can tell you that the predator in my story was very svelte, very slick, very calculated. And he knew exactly what he wanted to do to that little girl that he attacked. He knew exactly what it was that he wanted to do.
And
So, go ahead.
yeah, and looking at it, reading it, I realized he was also at a point your protector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there was a lot of manipulations there happening because, as you said, he studied you. He basically studied you,
Yeah.
and then he came to protect you. And when it is that you trusted in his protection, things that LaWanda, when he trusted in when you trusted in his protection, things that he was doing, you may have felt uncomfortable, but you trusted in him, so you allowed things to happen.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, want to say that I allowed them to happen, because I didn't allow it. I was forced to allow it to happen.
Right, but I'm not gonna say that you said, okay, come and do it. That's not what I'm gonna say. I'm saying basically it's like a parent and a child.
Yeah.
So a parent is correcting a child or takes something from a child, or does something with a child or brushes a child's teeth. A child doesn't necessarily want to brush a teeth, but they know, okay, it's my parent, so they're gonna have to do it for me.
Yeah,
So the child gets it done because, okay, it's my parent, and it's my parent. So that trust there makes the child do it regardless of whether they want to do it or not. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. I get it. There was absolutely a high degree of trust that was built in me over the course of that grooming period. And that grooming period, when there was absolutely positively nothing sexual happening, spans a course of like 3 years. It really took a long time before I knew I was in trouble.
Yes.
Because during my grooming process, I was just getting special treats. I just, I didn't have to go to the grocery store with the food stamps in my hand, because the predator in my story took and exchanged the food stamps in my hand for cash money.
Of course, and as a child, who don't want that? As a child, which child don't want that?
I didn't want to go and buy my now-a-laters with a $1 food stamp. And God forbid, if I was getting ready to go get a soda and a hot pickle and some now-laters and some penny candies, and it exceeded the $1, then I had to take the whole food stamp booklet, because see, food stamps was on a booklet back then, because you couldn't tear out of the booklet the 5s, the 10s, and the $20 food stamps. I think there were 20s. I remember 5s and 10s, but you couldn't tear the 5s and 10s out of the food stamp booklet. So if you had more than a $1 worth of, food or candy, you had to take the whole booklet to the store and let the store clerk tear out that money to make sure that they were not fraudulent. So I didn't have to do those things when I was a little girl. I learned how to depend on this individual. I learned how to defer to this individual. It was a very learned behavior for me.
Yes.
And that is the part of my story that I really hone in on, because I now know how I found myself in the situation that I found myself in. As an adult, it's easy to look back on that and be like, ain't no way in the world. Nope. Nope. I wouldn't have did that. You're right. You're right. Because our frontal lobes are fully developed as an adult. But when I was a kid, I didn't have the ability to really make those decisive decisions. And you're right. Trust was built there. So by the time the grooming part was over and we were getting ready to get into the more touching and more sexual part of this experience that I endured in my life, complete trust had already been established.
Yep. Oof. I'm going to jump to something.
Sure.
You spoke about just a while ago, as an adult, you look back and say, oh no. I want to know how from childhood to adulthood, how did this affect your identity crisis? What parts of it was affected?
May I be honest with you and tell you that I didn't know that this impacted my identity. I didn't find this out until I was in my 50s. I did not know that I was as impacted by the pain of my past, the story of my past, until I was triggered in 2022. Who I became, who I am, was all built on top of an extremely traumatic experience.
Yes.
That didn't just touch my life, but that touched the lives of every individual that is a core member, that is a part of this story. It has impacted and affected and touched us all in irretrievable, irreversible ways. Yeah, I didn't know that I was operating out of a little girl spirit.
Yeah.
Until I got triggered and had to go to therapy. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Now I can see it clearly, because now I understand why I've been married and divorced 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
I understand now why I had what I consider trauma bonding.
Yes.
I understand now why there was a reliance upon. I get it now. But it took a skilled artisan to be able to uncover and dig up all of those things so that I could be healthy enough to talk to you today about it. And her name, Dr. Latasha Russell, she wrote the foreword to the book.
Yes, she did.
And baby, when I tell you, when I read it, I wept for days.
Yes.
I just was like, wow, because you never know how impacted you are until somebody regurgitates your own story to you.
Mercy.
Yeah, man, I got it then. I was like, oh, good God Almighty.
Yeah.
I should have been told this story. I should have been told it. I should have been told somebody. I should have, long time ago.
Yeah.
But I hid it, and I didn't necessarily hide it for my benefit. I hid it for the benefit of others. You said it earlier. It's called a facade. And you have way too many people just like me walking around with that injury, bleeding, literally, like bleeding, just bleeding. And all it's going to take is one little thing to cause it to come forward. We got to tell the truth, and we got to start shaming the devil, because otherwise we will never, ever heal from the things that hurt us when we were children.
And this ain't no family secret. This ain't no family treasure. This is something that needs to... No, it's true. Because people don't talk about this because my family is going to feel away and it's going to affect the family. Okay, the family needs to be affected.
Yeah.
Needs to be affected because in your situation and in many other person's situation, they sat down, saw it, and refused to say something. And you know what? The last part of the... You know what, LaWanda? Let me not go to the last part. Hold on.
Not yet. Too soon. We picked... But you are right. You are absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Because it's going to come out. It's going to come out.
Controlled dysfunction.
Yeah. Controlled dysfunction.
You were living in that for some time. Tell me about that.
In controlled dysfunction, yes, I was absolutely living in what I consider a controlled dysfunction because what happened happened. And what's important is that what happened with eyewitnesses.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a story of LaWanda digging up, old news. This is a story that many people that are around my family, many people that are in the family knew about, and also did nothing about. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say that it was a controlled dysfunction. Because somehow, some way, nobody said anything.
My
And what
God.
trips me out about that story or about that reality is that the expectation was that I said something. But I'm looking at these adults.
Yep.
I'm looking at these adults like, okay, why didn't you?
Yeah, but you said something even as a child. I mean, whatever happened already, but you did say something, and it was still you were still taken and put. You know what? I don't want to tell your story. I don't want to go there. Reading this book, LaWanda, there's so many things that's happening with me.
Yeah,
Even
but and I will tell you this because I know what you're talking about. I know that story, that section that you're referencing that I know you don't want to give away. But you are right. But keep in mind that no one really knew what was happening. So they weren't able to, like keying in on it. They should have been, because there was absolutely behavior issues. There was absolutely signs, that there was something amiss. There were absolutely multiple opportunities missed when it came to the fact that there's a little girl in trouble. So sure, there were. But after the whole thing was uncovered, there was still nothing done to be able to remedy and resolve that issue. In actuality, I took the brunt of the responsibility for what happened to me, and ironically, I am still taking the brunt as an adult. I am still taking that as an adult of what happened to me. There are people in this world that will always blame the victim.
always.
Always. And what I have had to come to a realization with, as far as my story is concerned, is that no matter what they believe, no matter if they wanted to paint the picture that I was this overly sexual 9-year-old child, rather they want to paint the picture that I was this hypersexual individual. I was still 13 years old when my story became a reality in the eyes of people who had something to do with it. And the law says, here in these United States of America, the law says that that was statutory rape.
It is.
So even if they wanted to believe that I was the little fast girl in the story, baby, let me tell you something. The law is on my side. The law. I wasn't that person. And that's the part that has challenged me the most in this resistance that I'm experiencing. Because unlike you, the individuals who are closely connected to this story refuse to read the book. And
They
if
won't.
they will not read it.
They won't.
They will not read it. And they have told me that they won't read it. Because if they read it, then they would have to take responsibility for their part in the story.
They would have to be accountable to themselves, and they can't do that. They can't do that. The thing about it is that you said something earlier. Kids display signs when something is wrong. The truth is, there are persons who just think, oh, you're just misbehaving because you want to misbehave. They don't take a deeper look and investigate, okay, what's happening, because you were never this child before.
Right.
What are the circumstances around this? Why is it that you have changed? I think parents need to start taking accountability and start to investigate and try to figure out what's happening with your child. My child was never like this before.
Correct.
Something has to happen, or something had happened why the child is like this now. Secondly, ain't nobody gonna take responsibility, LaWanda. You know why? Because the wedding bells sounded. And I was upset at you. I'm telling you why I was upset at you. Because you went and looked for dress. And sorry. You see, this is where the other accent comes out. Because
you about to be speaking in patois in about 30 more seconds. Slow. Take it, breathe. Take a breath.
and I said to myself, she did what? She did what? But I understand because at that time you were still living in dysfunction and you were still taking on things to yourself like it was yours.
Mhm.
And you had to be quiet, you had to be silent in order for the family to be okay. You understand? You kill yourself,
I
killed
did.
yourself to make other people happy. And you started the book, by saying, it's time for you to love yourself. It's time for you to put yourself first. And I'm telling you,
Yes.
please start putting yourself first
I think that that
before
is the
anybody
main thing.
else.
Yeah, I think that that is the main message that we have got to start, that we have got to start emphasizing, that we have got to start putting ourselves first. You know, so in that whole situation of the universal devastation, you know, when we get to that chapter of the book, we are getting to the part where we are exposing the who's and the what happened when the eyes of understanding were opened. And what's really interesting to me is that there is a part of that experience that the individual who really did, and I'm going to say this to you as a person who has read the book, the individual whom I believe did the most damage to me is not the primary predator of the story,
Nope.
but the secondary predator of the
Yep.
story did
Oh,
more
yes.
damage to me over the course of all of those 38 years than the primary predator. But the thing of it is that they don't understand. And when I say they, I'm talking about the secondary predator in the story.
Yes.
They don't understand how I came up with the idea that I thought that they thought that I thought they were blaming me. They're
Yes, sir.
like, how did you? I never said that, baby.
Oh, really?
You didn't have to say it, honey. This right here, that right there, that says it.
The
What you
action.
did, what you did
What you
to
did
me,
not do.
what you did, and what you didn't do.
That's right.
Let me know that you faulted me. And I'm telling you, but it was the remembering of the physical action in universal devastation that has blown my rabbit behind mine. Do you hear?
Listen.
Coming to knowledge with that, coming to terms with that, Jade? Listen, my therapist had to pick me up off the floor.
You
You
may
better
have
come
to
and
come
get
and
me.
pick me up over here.
I'm trying to get up underneath the couch right now. Now wait a second. I didn't sign up for this. Wait a second. I didn't sign up for all this. Hold on. But when the trigger happened, it left a gaping hole in my soul,
Yes.
and I could no longer contain the
Yes.
secret of my past.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I wanna know something. I feel like my pressure is rising. So I wanna know something.
Lord, somebody get this lady some amalfidine. Somebody get her.
No. Let me tell you something. I believe everybody needs to read this book. And I'm not just saying it because you're here. I'm saying it because whether people have been healed, people who have not been healed need to read the book so that they can be healed.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And people who have been healed needs to go back and read the book. I read the book. There are things I can identify with from that book that triggered me. And it triggered me in a way where even though I have done a number of years of counseling, I said to myself, well, look at that. Maybe this is why I'm like this.